Here's the mise en place, or what's required to make the meat portion of the cottage pie. And of course, I'll put this in the information section below. What we're going to do here is grate the onions and the carrot and the garlic. And what'll happen is some of the onions and garlic, even some of the carrots, will dissolve into the mince and create a much more intense flavor. I've heated that skillet up on a medium to high heat, about a number 7 if you got it, and that's that tablespoon of olive oil. And I like to break up the ground beef as I put it in. That helps to cook it more evenly, and you want to, of course, season it with some salt and pepper, and just break it up until it's a nice fine mince. Once we started to brown the ground beef, we add the carrots, onions, and garlic and cook that off. Then go ahead and add those frozen peas. Then the spices come in, and then we're going to add the Worcestershire sauce and just keep browning that ground beef. And once it's almost browned, it's time to create a well in the center, and that's when we're going to add the tomato paste. And you're just going to cook it for about 2 minutes till you don't have that vibrant red color. And if you're using a cast iron skillet, you want it to be a little bit browned and caramelized. And as always, season and taste along the way. Add some salt and pepper as you need. And here I'm adding the wine, and that'll cook out for about 2 to 3 minutes. It would also be perfect in deglazing the pan if you're using a cast iron skillet. And now we're going to add 2 tablespoons of flour. This is going to help thicken this and make it into a thick, rich mince. And you want to make sure you blend in well all that flour into the mince. And then it's time to add the cup of stock. If you have chicken stock, that's great. Beef stock's even better. And this is where we're going to take some time, and we're going to reduce this to a simmer where it's just lightly bubbling, and create a nice thick sauce. This took me about 30 minutes, just stirring occasionally. And this is what we're looking for, nice thick sauce. When I run that spatula through, it just stays separated, nice and thick. And now it's time to transfer it to a lightly greased baking dish. What's important here is to make sure you spread out the mince evenly and flat. You don't want to have any air pockets in this. Now we're on to part 2, the making of the mash, and it's quite simple. Just going to peel and quarter 2 pounds of russet potatoes and put them in a pot of cold salted water, and then put that on the stove. We're going to bring that cold salted water up to a boil and then quickly reduce it to a simmer. And then we're going to continue to cook the potatoes until they're fork tender, which means a fork passes easily in and out of the potatoes. And then you're done. It's time to drain the water. I've added the drained potatoes to a large mixing bowl. Now it's time to add the ingredients, the 2 tablespoons of butter, the egg yolk, and the cream. And what's important to note here is I'm only going to add a little bit of cream at a time, because you don't want to get these overly moist. So use a potato masher if you got it. Fork works fine too. You can see it's a little bit dry here, so I'm going to need to add a little bit more cream. That butter on the side there is going to be used in just a little bit after I melt it. Now that I have the mash consistency I want, it's time to add the Parmesan cheese and blend that in well. And now it's time to put it all together. Preheat the oven to 375, and you'll see I'm putting the potatoes down in clumps. And I'm going to go ahead and use a fork, and that's how I'll fill in and press it around all the edges. Now that I have the potatoes down, I'm going to go ahead and use the fork, and creates a little bit of unevenness, some peaks. And you'll see that after I brush the butter with it and bake it, it comes out a beautiful golden brown. And the last thing we're going to do before baking is put a little more Parmesan cheese on top. Bake it at 375 for about 30 minutes or until it's golden brown. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.